Good evening, all, and welcome to this next session or the next practical of the Cloud Management Mumbai University's MSc IT syllabus. In this practical, we'll be dealing about using app controller and the various tasks related to app controller. So the various tasks we'll be looking at is a creation of a private cloud, as well as the deployment of a virtual machine and service using app controller as well as the VMM console. When I talk about a private cloud, I need to create a private cloud. A private cloud is a cloud that is going to be running internally in my corporate network, and which will be using different Hyper-V servers. In the earlier practical, we had looked about creating of two Hyper-V servers, adding them to my virtual machine manager console, and we are also dealt about using clustering or failover clustering to put them into a cluster. Now when I'm going to create a private cloud, I need to go to the VMN services tab. I need to right click on the clouds option and select the create cloud. I can give it any cloud name. I can give it, let's say I'm creating a cloud name, CM Lab Cloud. Description can be given anything. This is a basic cloud. I'll then click next. The host group is the host group onto which I want to deploy this cloud onto. I want to deploy this onto CM Lab. I'll click next. I want to assign the logical network of my gigabit. If you want to add a load balancer, you can add a load balancer. If you have created any VIP template, you could select it. Port classifications will allow it's going to be basically optimizing that cloud for various tasks. Like if I have low bandwidth usage, or if I'm having a lot of live migration work, I can optimize my cloud for that type of bandwidth. Storage classification, I haven't created a storage classification unit in my fabric, so that is why it's showing me as a 0 GB capacity over here. My stored VM part will be pointing to my to my SVMM library. If you want to specify the capacity, you can untick the option over here. Specify the you can assign a specific to a maximum capacity. For example, if you're having a Hyper-V server that is having 8 GB RAM, out of 8 GB RAM you can allocate maybe 2 GB RAM to that to this cloud to use of that Hyper-V server, of that cloud. I'll tick mark, since I'm using Hyper-V, I'll tick mark the Hyper-V option over here, and I'll finally click on finish. When I click on finish, it'll start creation of cloud, and you can see my cloud is created over there. So after my cloud has been created, I need to deploy my virtual machine on top of this. I can deploy a virtual machine on top of this by going on top to the create virtual machine option. Creation of a virtual machine over here for private cloud is the same steps as which was done previously for deploying of a virtual machine onto my Hyper-V servers. I'm going to create a virtual machine with a blank virtual hard drive. I'm giving it a name as Cloud VM. Hardware profile, I'm giving it Hyper-V capability. RAM, let's say I'm keeping it at 128 MB for thing. Hard drive, let's say 4 gigs. Dynamic. And the only difference between deploying a virtual machine to a Hyper-V server and deploying a virtual machine to a cloud is these options over here. Because I've now created a cloud, the option to deploy the virtual machine to a private cloud is now available over here. I'll select it and I'll click next. Finally, it'll give me the destination for a default placement. Currently, I'm having a better rating for Hyper-V 02. Also, because of resources, I have kept Hyper-V 01 off, and I have just kept Hyper-V 02 on right now. Next. I don't want to turn the virtual machine and I want to create it. Alright, and you can see that my virtual machine has been created. This virtual machine is part of the cloud, that is CM Lab cloud. The next part of this practical is about using app controller. If I open the website and I go to the website that is hosting app controller, I need to log in with my credentials. When I finally log in with my credentials, then I will be then given the app controller interface. Please note, for any of the web-based interfaces of System Center, you need to have Silverlight installed on your system. If Silverlight is not installed on your system, the web page will not load. After the entire sign-in process has taken place, it will then give me an overview of my entire System Center. uh, First thing first is I need to connect my virtual machine manager server to this app controller. I can do that by going into the settings pane, going into connections, specifying connect SCVMM, and I'm giving it a name, and I'm specifying the name of the server on the network. And I'm clicking on OK. So when I click on OK, the app controller will start interacting with the virtual machine manager server. It'll start importing the various certificates, it'll start doing the various authentication and connectivity to the SCVMM server. So after the connectivity has been established, my overview screen will give me much more detailed information about the various virtual machines that have been created in SCVMM, the various clouds that have been created in SCVMM, and more. So if I go to overview right now, it has already started fetching information. If you see on the left hand side, private cloud is telling me I'm having one virtual machine manager hooked up over here. I'm having one virtual machine manager cloud and one virtual machine that has been loaded over there. After I've done my configuration of my app controller, I need to work with deploying of a service. If when I want to deploy a service, I need to come to the services option tab over here, and if you see there, no, like I haven't deployed any services over here as of yet. If I click on deploy, it'll give me a new deployment screen where I need to click on configure and configure my cloud. Because when you're working with app controller, you need to have a cloud and you need to have your templates pre-made in the VMM console. If you do not have your templates pre-made in the VMM console, they will not show up over here. Because I've created my CM Lab cloud in my VMM console, the CM Lab cloud is being displayed over here. But if you go to see, when I click on select template next, it will not show me any templates over here. So when I want to create a template, I need to use the VMM console as well. Creation of templates for services or virtual machines both need to be done through the VMM console. So if I go back into my VMM console, I need to go into library. When I click on library, if you see left hand side, there is templates window over here, which is having VM templates, service templates, and service deployment configurations. I am working with a service, hence I will create a service template. Let's say for the sake of simplicity, I will create a single machine template. I will give it a name as CM Lab. Let's say mail, and I'll click on OK. Alright, so if you're going to see, I'm having a CM Lab mail service This is the service name. This is my single tier machine where I need to configure my machine. If you see left hand side, I currently do not have any VM templates over here. If I had any VM templates, I could drag and drop the templates onto this, and I could have this entire machine configured in a matter of few 2 or 3 seconds. So let's say is that I will first go and create my VM template. Click on VM template. I'm going to be using a, let's say, a blank pre-created VHD file. I'm giving it a name as XP deployment. I will configure the various settings. I will give this also 128 MB RAM because I am short on resources to use. Next, and finally create. So I've created my virtual machine template over here. Okay, so my VM template has been created. So currently my XP deployment VM template is visible and my CM lab template is visible over here. I can double click on top of it. I can view the properties of the services, or let's say I can open the designer of my service template. So if you see now, because I've created my VM template, it is showing me the XP deployment VM template over here. I can just drag and drop this onto the system and it'll do the entire pre-configure as it is. uh, I can then look at different options below. If you see over currently saying I need to have at least one virtual hard drive. So let's say if I double click on top of this, anytime I would like to modify the tier, I have different options on top. I can add a machine tier, I can add a load balancer, I can even add a VM network to this. Alright, so I have double click and show my properties. If I go into hardware configuration, let me just check if my hard drive is displayed. Alright, it is a 16 GB hard drive. I'll just click on OK for once and you'll see the error has gone. I'll just now click on save and validate. When I click on save and validate, the entire template will be saved. Alright, so I have my template for my service configured and have my template for my virtual machine also configured as well. I'll go into Internet Explorer. I'll click on select a template right now. It'll refresh and now show me different templates available. I will go to CM Lab mails. I'll see that this is template is having going to be having one virtual machine that is using one CPU, 128 MB of RAM and having 16 GB of hard drive space. I'll click on OK. After I click on OK, if you see where it is configure option, I need to configure things for it. Let's say I'm creating CM Lab service demo for the service name and instance. Let's say what is there for the instance. Nothing. Okay. It's grayed out, so it's default. Alright, so the moment everything is configured properly over here, you will then see that the deploy button is now available for clicking. I can click on a deploy button and it'll start doing the deployment. If you go to a jobs window, the jobs window will show what are the current jobs being run. So if you see right now, there's a job right now which is currently in progress. If I come back to my VM console and let's say if I go back into VM and services, I'll be able to see the different services that are being created over here. If I click on a jobs window over here, I can see in-depth detail about what is happening in the background. So I know currently an instance of the service is now being created, and there are very other sub levels or sub tasks of the service creation happening in the background. Also, if you see in my cloud section of CM Lab Cloud, my previously created virtual machine is displayed over here, as well as it is showing a status of creating for my service, and this is the service name which is automatically pre-generated. So if you see over it is showing me running over here. Also, if I go back into app controller, inside app controller in the services section, it'll say that it is deploying the CM Lab services demo, meaning it's still taking place. And now if I refresh it, it is now showing that my service is status is okay and the virtual machine is running. If I go on to overview will now show me that there's now one virtual machine manager service running. That there are different there are two virtual machines, out of which one virtual machine is not running. One virtual machine is obviously the one which is assigned to the service over there. And this is what this practical is all about. We in this practical we're seeing that we had first created a cloud in your VMM console. After the cloud has been created, we use the VMM console to deploy a virtual machine. Then we had looked into logging into app controller using the web UI. After logging in, we went into the settings and we configured a connection to the virtual machine manager. After the connection was established, we looked at deploying a service. As I mentioned, for deployment of a service, we require a cloud to be previously created in the VMM console, as well as we require a service template to be created in the VMM console. To create a service template, I mentioned that you need to go into library in the VMM console and create a service template. After your cloud has been created, after your service template has been created, then only you can go into services, use the deploy option over here to deploy the service onto your private cloud. If you do like my videos, especially this one, please give a like or leave a comment. If you feel that there's something in this practical which can be bettered by some other steps or by some other type of commands, please do leave a comment so I can update this video down the line. Thanks.